How's it going? Thad Brown with you here on BKL Nightly. It is Thursday. The Bills getting ready to take on the Ravens. Week number 1, the game now just 3 days away. A lot of stuff to get to tonight. We'll start with the big news, the injury report. Not great for the Bills. We'll start with the guys who did actually practice today out in Orchard Park. It was Christian Benford who was on the field along with Keon Coleman. Both those guys are nursing groin injuries, but they did practice. Benford was actually upgraded from limited to a full practice, so good news there. Really was never a concern that Benford was not going to play, or at least didn't feel like there was one. He seemed like he was okay yesterday. The same kind of goals for Coleman, who was still officially listed as limited today, but I would think both those two players should be good to go. On the other hand, the negative side, that would be Trey White, who did not practice, was not seen on the field for a second consecutive day. As a DNP, he is very likely to not play Sunday night. We'll get the official word from Sean McDermott on that, most likely on Friday. It's possible the Bills may try and hold things out and stretch it and see if White can go. But generally, especially with no games happening for, 9 months before this week, the idea of Trey White not being able to practice Wednesday and Thursday makes it unlikely for him to be available. So that means the Bills will most likely turn to either Jamarcus Ingram or Dane Jackson, who could theoretically be a practice squad call-up, or they could go to Dorian Strong, the rookie, who has impressed of late. Bobby Babich today talked about how much Strong has improved very lately.
The improvement over the last 2 weeks has been unbelievable. It really has. Credit to Jamal and Joe. It's funny. It's a confidence thing, right? You first get in the league, and you're trying to fit in. You're trying to see how you fit in. You're trying to learn new scheme. You're trying to learn all these things, and studious kid. I shouldn't say kid, young man, and not only is he talented, but the amount he's pouring into his craft is really cool to see.
The other big news today was Gabe Davis made his return to Buffalo officially. He's now contract signed on the team, not going to be available for a while, still recovering from the injury that short-circuited his season last year. Davis will be on the practice squad even when he does get healthy. Bills, of course, had to go through a few roster games just to make that happen, cutting Jordan Poyer, bringing him back. Now, a lot like Jordan Poyer and Jordan Phillips before him, Gabe Davis talked today about how excited he was to be back in Buffalo because this is not your typical NFL organization.
I feel like it's a family here. I got a solid group of guys here that I consistently, can call my brother, and I know they'll do anything for me. And, you just build so much here in such little time, but I don't know. It's not really a business around here. It's like everybody's connected from the top down, and it's hard to find places like that.
Now, beyond the injuries that we already mentioned, Tyler Bass today was downgraded from a limited participant in practice on Wednesday to a no practice on Thursday, still with the pelvis issue. Now, to further compound the concern with his situation, the Bills did actually sign a kicker today, adding Matt Prater, a guy who played for most recently with the Cardinals. He was a kicker in the NFL, or has been a kicker for, get this, 18 seasons. This will be year number 19 for him if he does play at some point this year. Good news for the Bills, even at age 41, he still seems to have a pretty sizable leg. 2 years ago, when he had his last full season with the Cardinals, Prater was 9 of 12 from 50 yards or more. Both the makes and the attempts were the most of his career. In addition, he made a 62-yarder that year, the second longest of his career. So even though Prater is getting up there in age, he's a kicker. It's not like he's got to cover 40 yards of space downfield chasing receivers around. So there is optimism that he could be a good option should the Bills need him. And with Tyler Bass not practicing at all on Thursday, the concern for his future and where he's going to be, I think, is certainly ratcheted up just a bit. All right, right now we're going to bring in Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert. It is time for the BKL Roundtable. This is the Thursday edition. Got a few different topics we want to hit on here. And guys, I want to start with a topic or a pair of topics that we spent a whole lot of training camp discussing that have both kind of quieted down, late in the year. That would be Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid. Two players that I think are very much important parts of this offense, whether or not it can take a step. Let me start with this. Just basically, we have the whole preseason, Rachel. Where are you in terms of where you think Coleman and Kincaid are, or maybe more accurately, your confidence for the fact that those two guys can be more contributors this year than they were last year?
My confidence for Kincaid, I think, is higher maybe than Coleman, just because I think Kincaid is a more consistent player. I think last year, despite dealing with injuries that kind of set him back at the end of the season, he was consistent. I mean, he's not the one out there making flashy plays, but I feel like Kincaid is the consistent guy that you can go to as a target. But I mean, Keon's had some good practices as of late that we've seen. I mean, I think he's the one expected to have more of a breakout year, but I do feel like Kincaid might be where I'm leaning of the pair. Not that I think Keon won't have a good season, but just of the pair, I would say I think I have more confidence in Kincaid to maybe have the quote-unquote breakout year, not breakout year, just be an impact guy for this offense. I
think you're right that he has the better floor, but I find that interesting because it feels like Kincaid had the much quieter preseason, that he was not a guy really standing out at all. Whereas, Keon Coleman, look, the Bills' Twitter feed couldn't get enough of throwing Josh to Keon, on social media every other day because there were plays to show, So, Caleb, let me go over to you here. In terms of which guy, or maybe either guy, it doesn't have to be one or the other in this discussion. It's just a matter of, are the Bills going to get anything out of either one? Where's your confidence level that this will be a good year for either number 0 or number 86?
I'll start with Kincaid. I think kind of to both of your guys' point, he's kind of more of a consistent, not going to make those flashy plays, and maybe that's why we haven't seen too much hype around him this preseason. But I think he's continuing to do that, if not a little bit more. I want to see that hype, that big plays, because that's kind of what we thought that he was going to be when he was drafted. But we just haven't really seen that from him yet. I think it's definitely possible from him this year. But then Keon Coleman, there's just still so much scare there for me, at least from what I've seen in this preseason, and I think a breakout year is possible, but it's just the more I see from him, the less confident I am in it.
That's it. Also, again, I think Keon has done enough for me in preseason. I'm not going to sit here and say breakout's coming, but I've seen some signs that I feel somewhat optimistic. I said before camp started that I didn't care about either guy's preseason. I really didn't. I was going to wait and see what happened September to January, not July to August. But of the two, Keon, at least, the thing I like about Keon, and the reason that if I'm going to pick one guy or the other, for me, it's going to be Keon, is because I have seen the Bills seem to be comfortable to put him in red zone looks and to make him effective there. And yeah, most of the time it's just throw the fade pattern, which is not nearly as effective as some teams will make you think it is. But there's been a little more beyond that I've seen Keon's game improve. There's been moves off the fade I've seen him run. The back shoulder stuff, not in the end zone, but other places of the field, I feel like he's gotten more effective there. So of the two, I lean more Keon has a chance to really make something happen. Here's the basic question of this, guys. Let's go back to this. If the Bills don't get anything out of either one of those two guys, does the offense get better this year? Caleb, will go with you first. Do they have to get an improvement out of Coleman or Kincaid to make the offense better? Understanding, too, that the offense was like a 9.7 out of 10 last year. Anybody making it better is going to be really hard.
Yeah. Just with what the baseline of this offense is and how good it was last year, I don't think one of them need to have a breakout year, especially with the other weapons. You got Palmer coming in, you've got James Cook coming off a great year, you have the MVP under center.
But he was the MVP. How much better can he get, though?
Exactly. So I don't know. I guess to your point, I think in order to be better than they were last year, one of them has to have a breakout year. Yes, I think so. But I think they can still be very, very good if they both just are who they were last year.
100% agree. Rachel, your take on that one?
That's a tough question. I think this offense can still improve even if they don't have a breakout year. And I just say that because last year when I think of this offense, neither one of those guys really comes to mind as the person that helped this offense be that 9.7 or whatever you said out of 10. So for me, yes, if one of them has a breakout year, that would certainly help them have potentially a better offense. But I don't think it needs to happen because I think there are other weapons on the offense that could be of help if those two guys do have a quiet season.
I do like Josh Palmer as a potential floor lifter for what the receiving group gives. Whereas Amari Cooper, who just retired today, by the way, whereas he was just almost a zero, to have a guy on the outside who's at least a competent NFL player, I think can lift the offense, even if Coleman and Kincaid are Control C, Control V from last year to this year. All right, next topic I want to get to is does Gabe Davis have a role in this offense that makes any sort of sense, that could become a guy that will help this team at all? Rachel, I'll go with you first. Like, what do we get out of Gabe Davis? What do we think we get out of Gabe Davis this year when he eventually decides to play?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I've been trying to think about this whole situation, and obviously McDermott is, he's on the practice squad now, but he's injured, so he's still working through that. But is the intention to put him to be on the active roster, and then what does the receiver room look like at that point? Like, to me, it's just a lot of question marks around. Honestly, all of these veteran guys coming back, there's a lot of question marks. Okay, what is their actual impact going to be this year? So for Gabe Davis, I think he has the potential. His 4 seasons in Buffalo, he was a difference maker for the team. But as far as this year and him being healthy is another question mark. How healthy can Gabe Davis get and what amount of time? So it's, for me, it's kind of, I don't know what we're going to see. And it's really an interesting transaction for me to see unfold. So I don't know. I don't really have a solid answer on what he will do because I'm not sure.
Join the club. Caleb, although he comes back and has a familiarity, so it's easier to, incorporate him into whatever they want to do. I just look at it and think he's not playing over Shakir, Coleman, or Palmer. He's probably not doing special teams like Shavers does. He's not going to be the gadget guy that you think Morris Samuel can be. So what the heck are they doing with him?
See, I think it comes down to two things. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was Jacksonville that he was with before Buffalo, right?
You're
so
correct.
I think, and he didn't really do anything there. So I think number one, it's what Gabe Davis are we going to get closer to? The Gabe Davis that Buffalo had for a few years with Diggs at number 1 and Davis at 2, or is it going to be the Gabe Davis that we saw in Jacksonville who made a couple highlight plays and that was it, nothing else? So if we get closer to Buffalo, then I think you could have an impact. And I think the second part is, like you said, what are we going to get from Palmer? What are we going to get from guys like Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel? What are we going to get from the 3rd, 4th, and 5th wide receivers if none of them show us anything? And I think Palmer is going to be very good, but if he isn't for some reason, if for some reason that connection is only good on the practice field, then maybe Gabe Davis can step in there. But I think if Palmer's good, if Moore's showing us stuff, if Curtis Samuel showing us stuff, I just don't know where there is a spot for Davis on this team.
I think the point you're making about Davis being able to contribute, in other words, being at a level that you can just walk him out in the field and help this team, I think does make some sense. At the very least, the Bills have a dude over here in the bullpen that they can run on the field and feel confidence in, no matter what else is going on. If you do have, like you said, the problems with a Josh Palmer or an Elijah Moore or even a Tyrell Shavers, which for me is the guy at the top of the list, not at the bottom, when we talk about potential problems. Third topic I want to talk about, which team needs this game on Sunday more? It's a big game for both of them. I'm sure fans on both sides are thinking, well, this could determine who gets home field in the AFC Championship. And, I say it kind of silly, but this legitimately could be the determining factor in that. Caleb, I'll start with you. Ravens coming off a playoff loss here. Bills, like Baltimore, really, history recently of disappointment. Who needs this Week 1 game more?
I think it's Baltimore. I think Baltimore needs it more. Like you said, they come off the playoff loss. Not only that, another thing I've been thinking about these past couple days is it was Baltimore and Kansas City in Week 1 last year, and Baltimore just barely lost in a very, very close game. And I think if Baltimore comes out Week 1 this year and they lose again to the Bills, again at Highmark, and then for the second straight Week 1 in a row, it's going to start to create a lot of questions. And the team is great. They're even if Baltimore loses, I don't think there's any reason to be concerned about Baltimore's future from an outsider looking in. But inside that locker room, there might start to be a little bit why can't we beat this team? Why can't we beat these good teams?
That's the thing that I think you're hitting on. When you said there's going to be questions, I don't know if that's true. Now, look, a part of it's true because football fans are dumb and fanatically, and they're just going to overreact to everything. Yes. But really, no matter who loses this game, the questions are going to be, well, we don't know if you can win that game in January, but the next 16 you're going to play, you're probably looking fine on. Rachel, I'll go to you. Which team do you think needs this one more?
I agree, because I think the Bills, if the Bills lose this game, I don't think people are going to say, okay, the Bills season is over. Now, if it was Kansas City week 1 and the Bills lose Kansas City, okay, it's a different story. But I don't think...
Again, that falls in the fans being dumb category. Yeah.
But, I mean, for the Ravens, it's... Everybody's saying, this is their revenge. Bills knocked them out of the playoffs last year. And I think for them... Exactly like Caleb said, if they can't get over that hump of beating the Bills, then it could affect just the mentality of, okay, what is this team? Why can't we get past, this team? Obviously, they beat the Bills in the regular season last year, so that, maybe fans, if it's just a back and forth of who is going to show up this game. But I also think for the Bills, we were talking about their season openers. They're 2-2 in the last 4 years, and that hasn't, those losses haven't really affected their season going forward. So, I mean, obviously this is a bigger caliber game maybe than those week 1 matchups in the past, but I think for Baltimore this is a must-win situation for them.
We talked about on BKL Nightly yesterday that when it comes to the Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, regular season matchups, the team that's won in the regular season is yet to win in the playoffs.
Exactly,
so we know it doesn't really mean that much. I'm with you guys, though. I think Baltimore needs this more. When you think about the theoretical mental pecking order, which is not relevant to anything except this discussion, the Chiefs feel great because they've beaten everybody. The Bills at least have the Ravens number in the playoffs. So they feel confident there. I think Baltimore's the one that might need this one a little bit more. All right, let's take a break. When we come back on BKL Nightly, we're going to sit down with Joey Bosa, the Bills' new pass rusher, talk to him a little bit. And what did the Bills think of Hard Knocks? We'll get an honest answer. Maybe. That's after a break. You're watching BKL Nightly. We're back right after this. Thad Brown back with you on BKL Nightly. Now, every single week, the Bills Kickoff Live team takes a moment to sit down with one member of the Bills to get to know them a little bit, talk about off-the-field stuff, where they came from, and what's going on in the mind when they're not worrying about the X's and the O's. Today, or this week, Carl Jones sat down with a pretty good topic. This time it is Joey Bosa, the brand new sack specialist, talking about some of his life growing up and obviously his very popular family. Here's this week's edition of 5 Questions.
Pops was a first-round pick in the late 80s. Your uncle was also a first-round pick. What type of lessons and advice did they give you growing up?
My dad was always there to support me, but he kind of understood that the game's changed, and he didn't really want to impose himself into, our football lives. He wanted the coaches. He didn't want to be that dad, out there, ex-NFL player. He's yelling and screaming. The coach doesn't know anything, blah, blah, blah. So he was there, obviously, to support us with everything that we did, but he kind of took a back seat in a way and let it just happen, and develop naturally. Obviously, he was a huge inspiration coming from a, small town Keene in New Hampshire and making his way to Boston College and eventually the Dolphins. So he understood that the techniques as well are a little different now. So he didn't try to teach us his Bob Swat, his go-to move. But he was. Both my parents, mom and dad, were always extremely supportive, and they were there every step of the way.
Now, speaking of your brother, Nick is also a first-round pick out there on the West Coast playing with the 49ers. I'm sure there were a bunch of battles, competitive stuff growing up as kids. Is there one story that sticks out between you and Nick?
I wouldn't say one, but I wasn't the nicest oldest brother early on. We had a lot of competitions, and he beat me a lot, unfortunately, whether it was ping pong or any stupid game that we were playing. And I always had a temper and would throw a fit after and make sure everybody was having a bad time, just like me. But then, we grew out of that phase eventually, became best friends, and now we obviously compete, but we just want the best for each other. And we're still competitive, obviously, but, I just hold it inside now.
For sure. Now, you spent the first 9 years of your career on the West Coast out there in Los Angeles, and you went coast to coast.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, what are the initial differences have you seen so far?
You said from here to LA?
From here in LA.
Yeah, I mean, definitely pretty different. In LA, I was in Orange County for 7 years, and I really enjoyed it. It's a nice, quiet life, not too much traffic, not too busy, open. Obviously, beautiful weather, beautiful places to be and visit. But I've been really enjoying it here. It's quiet, but it's not a small town. It's kind of medium town. It's got everything you need. It's got great food. It's really well kept. Orchard Park, where I'm living, is super nice. So, good golf, good weather so far. But my fiance loves it. My dog loves our big backyard. We have way more room here, so that's great. But yeah, I'm just preparing for the winter. I'm not sure I'm ready for it because Ohio State was cold, but it might be a little different. We didn't have too many snow games there.
What led you to come back to Buffalo? I know that you said some stuff at your opening presser. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen wanted to win a Super Bowl. Ultimately, what was the deciding factor in wanting to play here?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of questions going in through my head this past off season, whether I even wanted to, play again, whether it was going to be with the Chargers here or there, and I know it's a topic of conversation about my previous years of injuries that I've dealt with, and I just felt like I needed a fresh start, needed to go somewhere new. Obviously, like you said, Josh Allen, it's a great team. They've made it far in the playoffs multiple years in a row, but I just like the group. I like the defense. I just think I really needed a fresh start. I loved my time in LA, but 9 years is a long time, and I think I needed to see what it was like at another organization, and I think it's revitalized me a little bit, my passion for the game.
And then lastly, your relationship with Josh. You've been teammates for a few months now, but how has that been?
Yeah, it's growing. Obviously, the offense and defense were a little separate. So really, obviously, bonding with my D-line guys and all the guys in the defensive room. But, during OTAs, we got out golfing. He was the first guy to text me when I was looking to sign here. So he's a great leader. I mean, he's a super smart guy. He's just in the team meeting today, coach is like, what do you have on this defense? And he talked for like 10 minutes breaking down every single player, signings, draft picks, this and that. And it's just he's an impressive guy, and I'm excited to keep getting to know him and watch him play.
He's Joey Bosa. I'm Carl Jones. Let's send this back to you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Good stuff with Joey Bosa there, getting to know him a little bit. Now, the Bills had their Hard Knocks experience this year. That month is done. All the episodes have aired. Mixed reviews for sure. I enjoyed it. There are a number of people out there who are Hard Knocks aficionados who said there wasn't the same level of interest and storylines from it. But what did the Bills think? Well, I spent some time asking a bunch of those guys that exact question yesterday.
Kind of forgot it was going on. I had to tell family members or whoever that was texting me about it that I'm not watching it. So, we were in the grind of camp, So I like to just focus on what's going on in the present moment and being there for my guys in any way that I can.
It felt like they weren't even there, to be honest with you. And, we had like a D-line thing we did with them. But other than that, like, they kind of, respected us and our boundaries and kind of, recorded from a distance. And when the time came to do something, they asked us and we did it. And but it was a pretty cool experience.
Honestly, it wasn't that bad. They were here, but they were kind of just like flies on the wall. They were chilling. They weren't really up in your face. They had cameras out, but it didn't really bother me too much. It wasn't that bad. They were just kind of there. They were with us for, I think, a month and a half, but you didn't really feel their presence too much. So I felt like they did a good job of not being very invasive.
I thought they were very professional in their approach. I'd be lying if I said I watched the episodes. I do get texts from people saying, hey, I saw this, I saw that. So, but it was, I guess the experience overall was professional in nature in their approach, and met some good people, I would say, through the process here.
So no damage done. Everybody had a good time, and we can now move on to the regular season. This show only runs Monday through Thursday. So that means this is going to be our opportunity every week to do our weekly predictions of what the Bills are going to do this weekend. So, Bills-Ravens, we finally have a real game. Caleb, you can go first. Give me your prediction. Who is going to win on Sunday?
This one hurts me, but I'm going to go 28-27 Baltimore. From Baltimore's point of view, they lost in the playoffs to Buffalo last year. Like I said earlier, they lost in week 1 also last year. So they've been in a couple really close games against good teams, and I think this is the one that they're going to pull away. And from Buffalo's point of view, they host a lot of really good teams this year, and I think they have to lose at least one of them. And so I'm going to pick Baltimore as the one that they lose.
Rachel?
I disagree with you, Caleb. I think, this is the revenge tour for Baltimore, but I think it's going to be hard for Lamar Jackson to come into Highmark Stadium opening game of the season, Sunday Night Football, and take down the MVP and the rest of the team. So I'm going 30-27. Bills, I think, are going to come out on top on Sunday.
All right, I'm going to agree with Caleb here. I am going with the Ravens. My take here has been all year that the Ravens have had, 4 months to kind of marinate on this game being their opener. They've had 9 months to stew on losing that game. I think that does motivate a team. You think about, the Michael Jordan, The Last Dance documentary. These guys will find any reason they can to go out and get motivated, and the Ravens have an easy one. They're going right back to the scene of the crime of the game they lost last year. The other part of this, too, is that game, if you throw out the 3 turnovers, and I know that's a little bit of, how is the play otherwise, Mrs. Lincoln, but if you throw out the 3 turnovers, the Bills kind of did get dominated in that game, especially in the second half. I think the Ravens are just right now a better team and certainly a little bit healthier. So I'm going to go Ravens somewhat comfortably. 37-27 will be my pick for the final. All right, thanks to Caleb and Rachel for jumping in today. We are all done for this edition of BKL Nightly. Back with you again, wrapping up the game sometime Monday morning, because this thing is going to get done late on Sunday, but we will have a wrap-up show for you then, and then Monday we get back into our regular weekly routine, Monday through Thursday every week, BKL Nightly, getting you ready for week 2 against the Jets, but we'll put that on the back burner for now. Right now it's all Bills and Ravens. We'll see you then. Again, for Rachel and Caleb, I'm Thad. Thanks for watching. We'll see you over the weekend.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.